A pleasure to meet y'all at last. And now I've come back to Why's That? For today's question, we got ourselves another YouTube commenter, and he asked me, why is that you intend on bleeping out certain words to make your content more family friendly? Now, I have already made a video about that, and as it turns out, it has not gotten as much views as I hoped that it would get. But since some people just want to ask me questions based on videos I've already made about certain topics, I might as well just give them answers right now rather than just sparing them the trouble of having them go searching throughout my channel to find videos based on those topics that I've already made. So here's a simple answer to the question, because bleeping out words is essential to making your content more family friendly towards all audiences, and it would also prove to be safe for work, or as millennials will call it, SFW. With NSFW type works though, there's actually probably a lot out there that I've actually seen even, and they don't prove to be as safe for work as others. But here's the main part as to why. There's a lot of stuff out there, in movies, in television shows even, that have so much liberty that nobody really cares if the FCC even exists in the first place. The Federal Communications Commission. They do their job to bleep out words. They do their job to censor out everything that is considered inappropriate in terms of television, but not in movies, because, as I've already stated in the video I've made based on my own version of a censor, a lot of these production companies today have legal contracts saying that they can do whatever they choose to do. And the ESRB, or can rate these movies ranging from G to PG to NC-17. And these ratings, they all comply with what the movie has in store. If language, violence, nudity, or any of the other types of what's considered inappropriate even show up in the movies, then that's where these ratings come into play. NC-17 is by far one of the highest out of all of them. And so far I've not really seen any NC-17 rated movies, but I'm more than likely bound to find one, because, well, the highest I've gone to up so far was just R. Restricted is known as. And with other ratings out there, I mean, I've already seen a lot of them with the other ratings, G, PG, PG-13, and R happens to be one of those that I had not been able to see until later in my life. But with NC-17 though, I have really seen none at all. I've seen 0 of them by far. But here's the main point as to why ratings even exist in the first place, and why I guarantee myself it's my duty to censor out everything that I can to make my content more family friendly, to make my content memorable to all audiences out there, even children. Bleeping out words is essential to preventing your children from becoming very narcissistic and very rebellious towards their own parents. By using the language that had been considered very foul and very inappropriate in terms of most movies and television shows up to today, these children can get a lot of hot water. They can get themselves into a huge mess in their lifetime. Their reputations of a sweet, innocent child would be ruined, and it would be my fault, especially. And I'm more than sure out there that a lot of people out there would sue me for creating such awful content. Not safe for work type content, really. On top of that though, aside from having your children become very narcissistic and rebellious by watching very inappropriate content that could be rated R if it were something like a movie. You're not really safe even if after you turn 18, because this kind of content, this not safe for work content as it's known as in today's time, just as the name implies, not safe for work. It is not safe for work because if your employer were to see it per se, then there's a good chance out there that they'll just straight up fire you from your job, and a record might even haunt you for life, let's say. And it's all because of one bit of content that you uploaded to your channel, or tweeted on your Twitter, or uploaded it to Facebook even. I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of social media it is, doesn't matter what platform it stands on, does not matter what kind of software that you run. Even if you paid money for it, you still have to keep yourself in check. You have to keep yourself in a lot of good manner. You have to keep yourself in the good side of anybody, no matter who it is, no matter what kind of ordeals that it may be. It's your job primarily to keep your social media in check, to keep it clean as possible. Just like those advertisements that show both social media and a razor blade in it that signify how they both need to clean yourself up at all times. Social media out there is not going to be for everybody, of course, because now we're having social media just start restricting users that are below the age of 13 or even 15. Well, it depends on the kind of software out there that the person is using. If the person is underage, according to the community guidelines, then it may be restricted. The person may be restricted, of course, because that's just what the system is nowadays. As of May 31st of 2018, we've had Twitter users below the age of 13 become restricted. And of course, I was not 13 in 2006 when I first made my Twitter, and that new law that passed back in May 2018 was not existent back in August of 2006 when my Twitter was created. So that's just probably just out of the question and not exactly in the whole subject as to why we have such things as ratings and we have to keep ourselves in check in terms of social media or otherwise. But of course, it is always good to make ourselves some comparisons that keep ourselves lively enough to the point at which that we will keep doing what we want to do on social media. We just need to play it safe. A risk or two wouldn't always be necessary, but some people just go straight up ahead and just do it. And of course, if any lucky person out there were to be able to see it, if it's a coworker or an employer, I mean, your job, you're not even safe when it comes to them having to view your social media, of course. It's always pretty much unnecessary for the fact that, well, I always keep my social media in check. My YouTube channel and Twitter are proven to be safe for work, and of course, well, I mean, the company, the mainframe of Twitter right now is always harassing with my account for God knows what. And it's my duty now to just prove to Twitter, to those users who even operate the system nowadays, it's my job to prove to them nowadays that my account is not one of those kinds of accounts that are considered dangerous towards others. 2 years ago, it was a bit of an issue back then because two hackers have successfully manipulated Twitter to suspend my account until I got myself a phone and put in my phone number towards my account, and that managed to get my account back. Of which I then just managed to get those two hackers banned from Twitter forever. IP banned, so this way that their email addresses cannot be used to create a new account. And of course, there's also more to this than just, well, banning dangerous users on Twitter or YouTube, doesn't matter what kind of software it is, again. But the point is that social media nowadays, we are going to be doing whatever we can to make ourselves safer on the internet. Nowadays, well, because there's so much liberty and there's so much, well, obsession with freedom that people believe they can do whatever they want and get away with it for crimes even. 2017 alone was one of the worst years in terms of crime count. Whereas 2016 was one of the biggest years of celebrity deaths even. 2016 was big for celebrity deaths. 2017 was very big on crime count. In 2018, well, we are kind of having the best of both of these worlds, while at the same time, we are trying to do whatever we can to keep ourselves under control. I mean, nowadays we got ourselves internet challenges that are so awful, they're so dangerous, they're so insane. I mean, personally, here's what I would think of it. I would want to go back in time and just alter the past, make it look like these challenges never existed. That would be my big goal if time travel were to be invented. But once again, I do not always know why I do not know exactly why I'm always putting out of the question type subjects in the main subject here. I'm always putting out of the question type subjects into the topic that I'm already talking about. And, well, that's just something I want to do, really. That's just what I like to put in. I like to put in my side of the story, my type of scenario, and I also like to discuss the main reasons as to why I even come up with these types of scenarios or anything else. But anyhow, though, social media and ratings are going to play a huge role from this point forward. And going forward from today, here, October of 2018, we're going to have ourselves lots more to check up on, other than just the fact that social media needs to be played safely and that we need to have ratings associated with every film that we watch and every television show that we watch. Because, well, children seem to be picking up on words left and right. Well, sexual words and words that are not considered appropriate by school boards across the country, school boards across the world even. So when you think about it, it's almost like all hope is lost and your child is just doomed to watching something related to a horror movie or a movie that has so much language in it that it just cannot be stopped even. But it's not too late at all. It's definitely not too late, because what we can do today is we can just not watch these kind of movies until these children are of age. If they are at least 20, let's say, even though R-rated movies are seen by more and more of the 14-year-olds, 18-year-olds. I mean, the first time I watched an R-rated movie was back when I was almost 11 years old. And that was just, well, I wouldn't have been the age to watch PG-13 movies, but I still managed to do it nonetheless. And, well, I was just really narcissistic back then, but I realized that I would have to hold it back, otherwise if I kept acting up as if nothing happened at all in terms of parenting skills, that, well, something awful would have gone down for me. I probably would have ended up in prison, I would have ended up doing community service, I would have ended up rushing with the law. And that is something I would not want to have in my lifetime. Brushes with the law can actually be linked to people watching certain violent movies and television shows. They end up getting triggered mentally, and it can actually cause them to commit certain crimes. Just like with hip-hop music, rap music, metal music, those music genres are just so awful. They just plague our entire nation. They have been plaguing our entire nation for at least 20 years. And what has been happening with many people who listen to that is they've acted up usually, and they've always gone ahead, they've taken it upon themselves to do, well, whatever was described in the lyrics of the songs that they listened to. And so that is actually where another out of the question kind of subject just comes into play whenever I even talk about hip-hop, rap, metal music. Because once again, that would be another reason why I would want to go back in time. If time machines were even to be conceived anytime in the future, even if it takes me 50 years or so to, well, figure out if time travel is actually possible, backwards time travel that is, that reason why I would go to time travel would be to stop rap music, hip-hop music, metal music, any of those music in general, any of those genres I would prevent from becoming existent. And how I would do that as well, of course we all remember in the late 80s, just a few years before rap was even conceived and came into play in 1992, a few years before that, there was a Jamaican man who used this kind of genre. Well, actually he did sing this kind of style, which wasn't even known as rap back then. It wasn't even called rap until the early 90s. He sang this kind of music in his parties, of course. This Jamaican man sang that kind of music in his parties. And with metal, though, because metal music was first around in 1995, and the reason behind that was because the name metal, the genre name metal, was inspired by hard rock, punk rock band Metallica. And Metallica, it was their influence to have such a genre like that, with high tempo percussion and high tempo anything really, because metal music is all about high tempo, and tempo is of course the speed of the beat. High tempo would refer to high speed of percussion going. I don't even know how they do that really, but it's probably not my guess, because metal music is awful, and of course that's just the case. Metal music, rap music, and hip-hop music, some probably not always hip-hop music, well, they do contain explicit content. And for the last 25 years, we have had explicit content on our music that we find on iTunes or Google Play Music, or any other kind of platform that we use to purchase our music from. Personally, I do use iTunes and sometimes Google Play even, because Google Play does have a pretty easy way of returning and refunding. It has a much more easier system of returning and refunding than iTunes does. But if I were to use iTunes, then well, iTunes has been my main source of purchasing music from and downloading music from for the last 8 years. And Google Play didn't really come into play until last year. But here's another, well, good point as to why we have such things as ratings and the FCC. And this would also add up to the answer to the question as to why is that I do whatever I can to make my content children friendly, family friendly, friendly towards all audiences. It's almost like I've always described. As I've said before, children can become rebellious, narcissistic, and well, they could become repeat offenders if we don't take action as to what is going on. And it's all because of these movies, these television shows, the kind of music they have, the kind of, some books actually have that kind of content in it as well, the explicit content as it's known as. Some books I've read do have that kind of language in it, and well, I don't necessarily blame the writers really for all of that. I would more likely blame whoever's idea it was to even have that kind of language in the first place, be a part of our language. It actually is a part of multiple languages, really. I mean, those words are existent in almost every language imaginable. Every language existent can have these words in them, despite the fact that they are going to be pronounced differently in accordance with the dialect of the people around the world. But here's another real big point. This is probably going to be the last big picture as to why we have such things as everything that we need to keep our channels, our YouTube channels, our Twitters, or everything safe from other people's reach. It's our job to not just prevent crime, to not just prevent our children from turning into monsters, but it's also our job to keep ourselves in check. As creators of our content, we have to keep our reputation as an innocent person on Earth in check as well. Because adding up to arrogance and guilt would actually be all of the explicit content that we have in this world today. And there you have it, really. The answer to the question is that I want to keep myself in check as a creator of my YouTube videos and as a Twitter user. All my content is going to be kept as safe as possible towards all audiences. And with children these days, I mean, they watch my videos, then it's good for them, because my channel happens to have more friendly, family-friendly content in it than so many other channels will in this world today. If you want to see more, go down here on Why Is That. Make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.